got culture. Well, actually, every organization does, whether you know it or not. If you're a regular employee, you walk in the door, you do your thing, and you go home. Okay, if you work with the same thing, but you don't stop to think about what culture is and what it's about you, because you become immersed in part of it. You're only shocked at the culture when you first come in, and after a while, you get either numb or accepting of what you're really doing. But really, culture is the values and assumptions that are shared by the organization. Now, I want to make this clear. Culture is a top-down function, although sometimes I've seen cases where the culture has been existing, and I've had a person come in and try to change it and went through, and the culture ate them and spat them right out. That can happen, and we have a little section called Culture Eats Strategy. And that's really true. I had a boss come in, and she was quite an unusual character. She took great pride in that. She was from Texas, and she was going to change the culture. And she says, "David, this culture in this place is sick." And I'm listening to her, and I'm watching her, and she tried to move the culture from where it was to where she wanted it to go. And then that I went to a board meeting, and at the board meeting, they had all kinds of warfare going on. Literally, we had the vice chair of the board flip the gavel off the table of the chair because the chair was pounding away. We had our security chief who reported me staring at the board, not knowing what to do in case we had fist fights break out. They fired that person from her job, and the culture ate her, and they appointed somebody who'd been part of the previous culture as the chancellor within the next 3 months. It happens, the culture ate her alive because of the fact that she wanted to come in and change it, and it didn't like it, and it rose up against her and swallowed her whole, and she disappeared from the scene, and the culture reasserted itself over the top of the leader. You want to be a transformational agent, usually they come in as change agents within the organization and want to change things. Make certain that you're paying attention and that your vision is not at total odds with the culture, because you may end up losing your entire way altogether. The company's DNA is invisible, but it's a template for employee behavior. You see only the things that are out there. The physical structures, this is our place. It is absolutely stunning and beautiful. But behind the scenes, employees are biting each other's back. They take daggers and they stick each other quietly. They start rumors in that. And yes, that does happen. Sometimes cultures are exactly as presented, but most of the time you'll have different aspects of it. Do they all share in the vision? But what is the shared vision? Is it the thing that's out there that's all published, pretty and polished? Is that really the vision, or is it something else over here? Is it a matter of highly competitiveness with outside competitors and inside competitors? Is it a matter of everybody's ethical, or is it a matter of the ethics rise and fall depending upon the circumstances? All this are the things that make up the organizational culture. When you become involved in the culture, it depends at what level, because you'll see different aspects of it, but culture is a top-down thing usually, but it can sit down if you have somebody at the top that comes in, especially an outsider. That outsider can sit down there and try to rattle things from the top to bottom, and sometimes the bottom rises up and just gulps them down and they disappear from view altogether. If you look on a national basis in statistics going, and you'll see a rise from 2004 to 2020, 72% of all CEOs in the United States have a history of coming from within the organization. That means only 28% are coming from outside the organization. The reason for that is they keep on sustaining that culture, and people are accepting of them, and they promote them in the process. You'll have a few upstarts and everything, and we'll have some changes from the pandemic that swept the United States, but those are the data as of the time of this recording. So this whole aspect of values and the culture, what it is, it really is an oversimplification of values they have. Sometimes we ignore assumptions that are made, and a lot of cultures assume that they're clear and they're unified. With that, when you go through, if you have that on and you have rose-colored glasses, you think it's all there, but the reality is it's all fuzzy. Sometimes if you go in and you say something, you don't realize that you're talking to the relative of a vice president of whatever, or you're talking to this, and all of a sudden you're called in the carpet, you don't know why, and then they pass you around and they bounce you around the whole process. Sometimes you have values like that, And don't think I'm exaggerating. This is how it works. Pay attention, keep your mouth shut, listen, watch, see what's going on. Also, if you're new to an organization, let me give you a bit of employment advice. The best way to orientate yourself, because so many companies have a mediocre to poor orientation process, during your lunchtime, go sit down and go wander down a hallway and get lost and ask people what they do. People like to share what they do because they're proud of the work they do an awful lot. If they're not, you'll find that out really fast too. But get to be that person that asks questions and get to know people and what's going on and see if that place long-term is the place you want to be. It could be a great culture, a place where you can grow and thrive, but you don't grow and thrive unless you start sampling the culture and becoming part of it. Here are some of the organizational cultural dimensions: innovation, stability, respect for people. You'll see the characteristics coming out. If it's stable, it's predictable, it's security, there's rule-oriented, respect for people, there's a fairness and tolerance and an outcome orientation focused on action and high expectations for you and for everybody else around you, team and so on. So pay attention to all the different dimensions. Look at the dominant culture that you're seeing there. You're also going to find a whole series of subcultures. And I call them grapevines, and you'll have different kinds of grapevines. If you're in a chair of power, I always use the illustration that when you walk in, you'll have grapevines tied to your chair. So you may have 7 or 8 of them, and you'll see them as they come in. You're sitting in your chair, and somebody comes in. Oh, how are you doing? They tell you, and then they tell you about a problem. And the problem, we need to do something about this. I like to propose the following, and they have an agenda, and they want you to execute the agenda. Now, pay attention. They've probably been to the person that occupied the chair before you were there, and they're talking to that person too, and didn't get their way, so now they're coming back with the same problem. Yes, it may not be, the person may not be bad, they may not be evil, but they want to have things their way, but also they want to make certain that they maintain their place in the organization and have a place of significance, because that could be where they were at, or they might gain significance from where they were before. It just depends. Pay attention to the subculture. Be slow to make changes unless it's a change that you feel has to be done right away. But make certain that you're not being swayed by people on the inside trying to get their agenda and usurp the power of others. 2 functions of subcultures: surveillance and critical review, and you'll see emerging values rising from that. And sometimes the subculture can be healthy. Sometimes it can be healthier than the existing one. Be cautious, though, about grabbing onto a subculture without having a good knowledge of what the culture itself. You'll see different artifacts, and we call them artifacts. They're symbols, they're signs of the culture. You'll see it in the structures, the ceremonies, the language, the story. If you have some type of awards day, you'll see different aspects coming out where people have always done it this way. Enjoy that aspect of it, but pay attention and watch. Look into language. Look how people talk to each other, how they talk to the clients. That's part of the culture. Listen to the stories of fame. At Southwest Airlines, we believe in customer service to the point that even our pilots will go clean up a cabin if it's a matter of we're running between flights. We all pitch in. That's a story from Southwest. I don't know. I've never seen a pilot clean the seats at a Southwest airline, but that's one of the stories they have, or the legends they have. That's part of how you discern a company's culture. So we got culture. There's value and assumptions that are true bases of the culture. There's a difference between the stated culture over here and what you're going to really find. The iceberg model really is a big deal, and it's factual because you only have a part that you see initially. You'll discover more as you go. Culture is defined more by the artifacts and evidence, and you may not see it for weeks or months within the organization when you first arrive. But regardless, we all got culture. Take care.